Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this edition and the latest Kiwanis Connects meeting show coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube all over the world. That's right. I'm Aaron Phillips. I'm in Virginia Beach where it is steamy hot right now. You can bake clams and sauces, all you want right here on the sidewalk. Lots of storms coming in, but you know what? My pool is still wet and keeps me cool. That's right. And today's show continues our trend of wonderful shows. By the way, last week's show, Doc Val joins us from California, looking much healthy. Last week's show with Mr. Seth Hewitt as our guest, we have eclipsed. Are you ready? Good thing you're sitting down. 113,000 views with Mr. Seth. So our guest today, Jim Vistante. No pressure, Jim, but to eclipse that, no pressure whatsoever. But I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. Whether you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, you know the important part is that you are watching us. And if you can't catch it live, and if you're watching it later or tomorrow or a month or a year from now, we thank you for tuning in no matter how you watch us. And of course, today, not only do we have this great guest, Jim, I'll get to his introduction in a second, but we've got Melissa Atwell's mental health moment of the day. We've got bad dad jokes, which Jim has done his homework for. We got Val's wow moments, and she is ready to rock and roll. Doc Val, how are you today?
Aloha. I am, even though I may sound like I have Kermit the Frog going on, I am feeling a lot better. I'm very thankful for medical insurance, I got to tell you. A lady that was picking up the same meds that I was picking up 2 days ago, it was $1,100.
Wow, is there gold in there?
It feels like it's because it's working. But,
wow.
Yeah, the three meds that I picked up. So insurance is a big deal. So you know me, I don't like to go too political, but we need to make sure that every human being on this planet, every child is able to access insurance, because this stuff is no joke.
Well, Jim will just write a new comic book or something detailing the benefits of all of that. Shout out to Judy Goad. She's already out there. Good morning, Judy from Bakersfield. Listen, without further ado, because he's got a screaming mustache working that I want to make sure gets full attention. Please welcome to today's show, Jim Vistante. He's a 20-year veteran of the video game and tech industries and the executive director of Health E-Habits, and those are hyphens in between there, an organization dedicated to youth digital wellness and media literacy. Having spent 2 decades shaping digital marketing campaigns for global brands, Jim understands exactly how the attention economy is engineered. Today, he serves as a subject matter expert for Common Sense Media and works directly with parents, educators, and community leaders to help families reclaim their digital lives from manipulative tech platforms. Jim, thank you for coming on today. To me, Common Sense Media sounds like an oxymoron. I don't know. Just call me crazy. I don't know.
I think that's probably part of the point, right? Is to get the attention of just like, wait, really? What?
Absolutely. Well, I'm intrigued by your background and how you tie all this together. By the way, John put in our private chat, he says you've got Captain Pike hair. That's a great point. You got the Captain Pike from Star Trek working. I like that. Anyway, Val, I'm going to throw it to you to get things started with Jim, because it's a lot safer that way. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Chuggy. Good morning, Bella from Guam. We are international. Bella from Guam is watching.
Bonjour, Belle.
Your jersey should be showing up very soon, Belle. They're on the way. Anyway, go ahead, Val.
You know, one of the things that I'm always reminded of when I see Jim is that not all superheroes wear capes. And that's because what he's doing is hero work. And so Jim, it really encapsulated what do you do?
That is a fair question, because when I introduce myself and what I do, a lot of times people think, oh, so you're like tech support. It's like, no, a little bit different than that. What I do is I help people have a more mindful relationship with technology. And what I mean by that is I kind of treat it like food nutrition labels, where you can't make a good decision about what you eat unless you know what's in your food. And you can't make a good decision about the tech that you use unless you know under the hood how it works. And so I have about 30 years of experience in this industry, and I want to take that information and give it to parents, to students, to everyone, really, because it is an education that unfortunately is sorely lacking. And because of that, we're not able to make the best decisions that we can, especially when it comes to our kids. And so it's really important to have that information.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I've noticed is that, especially in the video game industry, people don't realize that is actually a marketed product to get into your home and then to get into your head. Most of them see it as a mindless process. And so when you said that you were a video game engineer and all of that, I was just like, but behind the scenes, you know what this mass market does to people. And so we're going to go a little on the dark side, but when this stuff is out of control, there's some pretty negative impacts it can have on kids as well as adults.
Yeah, for sure. And just to clarify, I wasn't an engineer. I worked in marketing. So I was somebody that was creating content and running social media channels for Xbox. I've worked with every major publisher. And also to clarify, I love video games. I think one of the things that I am trying to focus on right now is actually how to have a better and more nuanced conversation about video games, because there are video games is more of a medium, right? It's not a monolith. It's like books, television, movies, right? It's a medium. Whereas social media is a monolith, because the whole underlying point of social media is retention. That's any app you're on. The whole goal of the app is to keep you there to get your information that they can sell to advertisers. Video games are a little bit different, because there are still some really great games out there that are fun and are entertaining and are a great way to, you can socialize, you can blow off steam. And then there are some that are absolutely designed as extraction machines and just are there to keep our kids spending time there, because again, that's how they get their information, right? And that's how, a lot of the stuff is free to play, but free to play is usually the most expensive type of game, because there are microtransactions, meaning you have to pay for things within the game, sometimes 2 levels of microtransactions. So when you use real money, you actually lose track of how much you're even spending in these games. So that's where, like, especially around video games, I'm trying to change that conversation. So we're teaching people to see the difference between the two types of games, so that, you can make good decisions about what you're playing, and then also teach your kids. Because the whole point as parents is, I heard the great quote of, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And so at a certain point, we want our kids to have autonomy to make decisions for themselves. But if we're not arming them with the information that they need, then they're not going to be able to make these decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Knowledge is power, right? Is that what the old saying goes?
Yeah.
But as I'm sitting here thinking about it, we're talking about today's children, and I've spent 30 years in a classroom working with elementary kids. And I think about when I was their age. I mean, all we cared about was getting home safely before the streetlights turned on and Dad paddled your ass if you didn't. We didn't have the electronics. I think when I came of age, we had Pong, and it took 30 minutes for that damn ball to get from one side of the screen to the other. You can order a Little Caesar's pizza and get it within 30 minutes. So our attention was very different, but I'm interested, though, from the literacy side, what are some of the things that we really had to focus on from when I was growing up in those elementary, young and formative years to where they are today, that with what you're doing, you've created some safety valves for the kids now that we didn't have when we were getting dirt in our mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, when we were growing up, there were commercials on TV that literally were like, it's 10 p.m. Do you know who your children are?
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is there's that book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, that everyone, talks about, came out a few years ago and really kind of kickstarted this conversation about kids and technology. He talks about how we overprotect in the real world and we underprotect online. And I think that is absolutely true. I know that some people take issue with some of the things that he says, but you cannot take issue with that. It is 100% true. Where back in the day, yes, when we were growing up, we had so much freedom. We weren't being tracked. Our parents let us make mistakes and socialize with other children and learn how to become adults and self-sufficient. And we've taken that away from kids, and I think very much to their detriment. And what he means by underprotecting online and overprotecting in the real world is, I think it started around the 90s when we kind of had 24-hour news, CNN, all of this stuff really kick in, and they had to fill this time and become a little sensationalist. And so all of a sudden it was, stranger danger, which honestly, it's not a thing. It's really not a thing. The amount of people that have been kidnapped by someone they don't know is so small that I read a study, you could be in a public park for 700,000 years before you would be abducted by someone you didn't know.
I must be hanging out at the wrong parks.
Also, happy 700,000th birthday. That seems rough. So just that idea of, but then they go into these online spaces and are unprotected, and they're not given guidelines, and that's where it becomes really dangerous between the people that they're speaking to, who could be adults, and it sounds kind of pearl clutchy, but it's not. I mean, these are issues that are happening because predators go where the children are, and the children are online. So there's that safety issue, but then also because it is such a thing that can suck you in, especially when it is designed that way. And some of them, again, are purposefully designed that way to capture our attention. Then, you don't have kids that are able to go outside, go to these third places that they used to have. So when they want to get together, and they do want to get together, study after study shows that these kids don't want to be on their devices as much as they are, but they don't have other third places to go, which is why stuff like Kiwanis Club is so important. Other community organizations having places for kids to go and be together and be social with each other, to be able to ride their bikes somewhere, right? To have that responsibility without feeling like they're constantly being monitored, and then they're not allowed to make mistakes. And as a kid, you have to make mistakes, right? You have to learn how to socialize with other children. And so we have kind of taken that away from them, and we've got to figure out a way to give it back to them.
That is so amazingly true. And, it's just like one of the things that I've been noticing with our key clubbers, and it's starting to change a little bit, is that they went through COVID. So this block of students is so used to communicating on the machine and through game. And so they'll still be sitting in the same room, not looking up, not talking, and busy chatting. And you realize they're talking to the person sitting next to them, and they're sharing pictures next to them. Their lips have never moved. And it's like one of those old sci-fi movies where you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Because the problem with that is there's no. So I read something that I thought was really interesting, where we don't have empathy, right? You don't have empathy. I don't have empathy. Aaron especially doesn't have empathy. But it is something that we create.
Aaron has empathy.
It's something that we create together. And the way that we do that is physically. We're in the same presence as somebody. You look into their eyes, your brain starts to sync up, your breathing patterns. That is social connection. And you cannot do that through a screen, because a screen doesn't have physiology. So there are instances where being in the same room, let's say they're playing the same video game. If they're talking to each other and hanging out, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the same as watching a TV show together or watching a movie together. But if you're sitting there staring at a screen, like you're saying, Val, and just texting, that's not socialization. That's not communication. And as human beings, that's our superpower, right? We didn't get where we were because we're stronger than or smarter than. We got where we are because we cooperate and we tell each other stories. And using those stories, we work together to build what we have as a society. So when we take all of that away, that is, we're truly, I think, in an existential crisis. As somebody might say that that's a pretty big hyperbolic statement to make, but I don't think that it is. I think that we truly are at this crossroads where we have got to get this stuff under control, or as a species, we are going to suffer. I don't even know. I don't even know what that looks like when humanity is not able to be able to look each other in the eye, speak, cooperate, problem solve together.
Well, I think we kind of saw that during the COVID stretch, and I think we got a little taste of it there. We're going to step aside right there for our break. We have a lot more questions and things to discuss with Jim that we're excited to get to. Pop your questions in the chat room. I'm monitoring them. John's monitoring it. If you're on YouTube, you can put them in there. We want to load up Jim with questions and information. The website, if you are watching the screen, is scrolling at the bottom. It's health-e-habits.org. If you're not watching the screen and you're driving, that's a smart decision. You can always go back to the video later on. You're watching Kiwanis Connects, more with Doc Val and our guest Jim, and all of you. We'll be right back.
Imagine being able to golf no matter the weather or time of day. Well, now you can at Back 9 Great Bridge in Chesapeake. Grab your clubs and swing by for the next level of golf. Back 9 is open 24/7, play on your own schedule, get pro-level swing data, and much more. Try St. Andrews, then Pebble Beach to test your skills. It's also a great way to start playing golf without the distractions, pressure, or cost of playing 18 holes outside. Back 9 offers individual and corporate memberships to fit your needs. Back 9 is now open at 500 South Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake. Visit our website for more information. Level up your game without stepping on the course with Back 9. Hi, I'm Hall of Fame broadcaster and local TV host Aaron Phillips. Are you interested in hosting a podcast? I offer a podcast seminar where I share the information you need to set up your podcast for success. Some of the topics that I cover include basic terminology, how to do a successful interview, who to target as a potential advertiser, and more. For more information, visit thevoiceof757.com or email me directly at aaron@thevoiceof757.com. Let my voice speak to you.
Kiwanis International is a global community of clubs, members and partners dedicated to improving the lives of children one community at a time. Today, we stand with more than 550,000 members, from K-Kids to Key Club to Kiwanis, for all ages in over 80 countries around the world. Each community has different needs, and Kiwanis empowers members to pursue creative ways to serve the needs of children, such as fighting hunger, improving literacy, and offering guidance. Kiwanis clubs host nearly 150,000 service projects each year.
For more information, contact Herman Platsky at KiwanisClub of 29Palms.com.
All right, welcome back to Kiwanis Connects. Aaron and Doc Val, and we have special guest today, Jim Festante, joining us. You know, one thing about AI, that little commercial for my podcast seminar, I wish I looked as good as I did in that darn commercial. And John even made a little cameo in there too for that. Boy, AI does a super job. I'll tell you, it's just amazing. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Jim is the executive director of Healthy Habits, where we're talking about really taking the technology that we have that is inundating all of our kids around us and really how to harness it for positive. And I want to start off with a question. I was thinking about, again, being a superhero, as we were discussing before I went on. I gave Jim a virtual tour of my studio here in my office. You know, there's a scene where Uncle Ben tells Peter Parker, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. Mm-hmm. So when we look at what we're doing. We've harnessed the power of the internet, technology, cameras, soundboards for the power of good, right? So can there not be a parallel made that the technology is fine? It's the responsibility that we have in using that technology is where we kind of go off the rails.
100%. I think, Aaron, you're completely right. That is the issue, right? Where it's like the tech itself can be pretty neutral, but how it's being used, that's the difference. Like, you know, we used to have these conversations about screen time. You know, that was the word like a decade or so ago. And it's like, that doesn't matter. Screen time doesn't mean anything anymore. What are you seeing on the screen? What are you doing with the screen, right? That's totally different. And so we have to be more nuanced and specific about when we talk about this stuff, and, you know, talk about, you know, great power comes great responsibility. Absolutely. And unfortunately, the responsibility is on a lot of these tech companies. And let's just say they're not Spider-Man. They're Doc Ock, they're they're Rhino, they're they're everybody that's maybe not Green Goblin has the best intentions for the rest of us and are more concerned with themselves. And and I say that not as a conspiracy theorist, but as actual fact. We talk about the studies that have been done about how this stuff not only affects us, but how it affects children. And the best studies come from those companies, come from places like Meta and TikTok, where they do internal studies and then they bury them because the answers that they get aren't great. And so then they come to light because of whistleblowers or legislation. There was a big trial here in Los Angeles back in March where Meta and Google were being sued because these parents said, their daughter was addicted by their technology and they did it on purpose. And Meta and Google lost. And that is a great win for people because it harkens back to the 90s where tobacco CEOs sat in front of Congress and testified that nicotine isn't addictive. Well, yeah, it is, turns out. And now we're starting to realize we're having another tobacco CEO moment with these social media companies, especially where they're not telling the truth. And we know from their own studies that they know how harmful this is. And so they are not being responsible with it. When it first started, social media was great. It was a way to connect with each other, but it's not that anymore. It's not a public square. It's an advertising network, and our attention that's what's being sold, right? If the product is free, you're the product.
Right.
Absolutely. One of the things that has really been popping up for me a lot lately is we'll mention something in our house. So we'll start talking about we need new irrigation. We really need to talk about irrigation. And then all of a sudden on Facebook is this amazing group of people that can come to our house and put in irrigation for really inexpensive. Just touch this button and are like, what the heck just happened here? And so it's like, absolutely. And
they're listening for sure.
They are. But that's on us because we haven't set the right settings on our Facebook. We haven't set the right meta settings. So when we go in and they ask for cookies, we go, cookies sound good.
Oh, what a delicious idea.
A delicious idea. Oh. And
that song, Let's Give Them Something to Talk About? One of these days we should set a trap and see what happens.
There'll be someone knocking on our door wanting to take me away. So
hi, my name is Douglas Chadwick. Don't worry about it. You can find me. Love you, Douglas.
I mean, it is there is a side of it that's like, oh, that could be helpful, right? But if we're not asking for this stuff, if we're we didn't agree to this, right? Like I all the talk about AI, how it's been kind of like that technology has just been foisted on us without anybody really asking for it. And there's reasons for it, right? Because they needed to be, they needed to make a profit because right now they are losing tens of billions of dollars a year on these generative AI programs. So they need us to help fund that and make it profitable. But also, again, it's just like that's where they get specific information about us. When you use things like social media platforms, when you use AI, they take our information. I'm not even convinced at this point, knowing how bad these companies are, if you changed the settings and told it, like, don't look, I don't even believe that they wouldn't do it anyway. We're just in such it is a wild west. It is a new point in our history. I don't think we've had a point like this in our history as human beings for quite some time. Maybe atomic power was the last one, but yeah, we're in a wild time with AI for sure.
Well, I think we had the first test with that. If you remember the don't call numbers, when we were bothered by cold callers and we had to register our number. I mean, that was supposed to be some level of protection, and maybe it did for a very short time. But then after that, it was like, all these companies have like thousands of 800 numbers that they can use to dial out, and you can't track them all, and they still get to you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was a trial.
That's a legislation issue too, right? Where it's like there are no consequences, or the consequences are so menial that these companies are like, well, it's less expensive for me to pay a fine than it is to fix the problem, so I'll just pay the fine.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know, and this harkens back to there is this thing that teachers used to do, and they would give you this quiz. And on the very beginning, it would say, read through all the questions, answer them, and answer them once you've read through them. And the very last one is just sign the page and turn it in, right? And so most people would go through and they want to speed it up. So they would answer all the questions and do everything, not even read the last one because it didn't look like a question, and turn it in and fail. And so I think that's one of the lessons that we learned along the way, which was you need to follow directions. You need to know what you're signing, what you're committing into. And most people, when they're so ready to opt into, especially one thing that just happened to us is when you're in a refinance mode, there is an opt-out button that says that they cannot inform people that you are in refinance process, because the automatic default is that it's public information, unless you say no.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't read third page, middle of the page, buried in little bitty print, every single mortgage company, every single lender gets your information.
Yeah, the default being something that is beneficial to the companies is definitely something with the tech companies as well. I mean, talk about AI, right? And how ubiquitous it's become. I know that, in Google settings, right? If you don't, it just really annoys me every time, I'm trying to write an email and it pops up like, let me help you. No, I don't need your help writing an email, right? And this isn't to say that AI is all bad, right? To your point, Aaron, that it is neutral. We just have to know when to use it and when not to use it. And for AI, when to use it is when it's a menial task, the output is what's important and the process doesn't matter. But when you are doing something where the process matters, where you're writing an email, where you have to think and use your voice and use your critical thinking skills, that's not a place for AI. So if you were to go into the settings and say, like, look, don't bother me in my email with Gemini, well, guess what? When you turn that setting off, it turns off your spell check. It turns off your grammar check. It turns off the things that are actually useful to help you write an email. And I think stuff like that is just really insidious and just, it's not a good faith practice.
Absolutely. So how do we turn this around? So I know that we probably have to do another commercial break, or are you good, Aaron?
Well, coming up, let me just do a quick reset. We'll do a commercial in about another 10 minutes. I just want to welcome everybody to Kiwanis Connects. This week's guest, Jim Festante, he's the executive director of Health E-Habits, taking his many years of doing video games and all sorts of stuff and using his power for good, as we were just talking about. And we're talking about how today's social media and AI and all of that has to be turned into a positive for our kids. And I think we're about to turn the corner to get some ideas on that. And I'm just intrigued by this entire conversation because I grew up in a time where literally playing with dirt was a highlight of the day, to going through the phases of video games were just getting started, and Atari and Nintendo and all of that, to the point now where someone who spent so many years in the classroom with these kids that are like, and I'm just as guilty because of texting and surfing, and I think we're all that way, but how can we use that in our Kiwanis world to help buffer those students, well, just from any age, be able to use the power of the internet and use the power of reading and screens and games to the power of good? And that's where we are right now. Please continue to put your comments and questions in the chat room, both on YouTube and Facebook. We'll continue to pop them up. We have Cynthia, greetings from Redwood City. We have people inside the chat room saying hello to everybody as they're listening, so we want to thank everybody for that. Val, I'll take it back to you. Another 10 minutes. We'll step aside for our final break. Okay.
Well, I'm going to leave it up to Jim because I know that he has a bunch of ideas, and so let's get him out there, because it's like I'm a problem solver. I want to win. I play video games to win. I don't play them to spend time in Farmville. So
Yeah, and this is, I mean, this is something we have to win, right? Like I said, or
Mhm.
we're in a lot of trouble. And Aaron, also to your point about like feeling guilty, it's not your fault. It's not any of our faults, right?
Mhm.
Like we are on these devices, like they literally hire people in the same way that Vegas Casino hires people to figure out what are the tricks and what are the traps that keep people there, and don't leave, right? And if you log off, it feels like a penalty. It feels, like something bad, as opposed to you
Mhm.
having control and feeling like, I don't want to do this thing right now. So it
Mhm.
is intentional. I think education is vital, right? Like for ourselves to understand how this stuff works, to be able to talk to our kids about how this stuff works. Asterisk that, because I'm going to get back to that in a second. But the other part of it is communication. We have got to talk to each other about this stuff, because it's not something that you can do in isolation. It is absolutely a collective action issue where, like, for example, the big gift in our school district from elementary to middle school was a smartphone. Terrible idea. A
Mhm.
middle schooler does not need a smartphone. Could they have a basic phone? Absolutely, right? Like a phone that can call, that can text, can do maps. Like, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when you add unfettered internet access, then the distraction comes, right? Of video games, of social media, all of that stuff becomes really problematic, and distracting, and ruining your focus. So when I talk to parents, 9 out of 10 all said the same thing, which was,
Mhm.
I didn't want to do it that early, but I didn't want my kid to be left out. Well, if 9 out of 10 parents feel that way, and then they're talking to each other, well, guess what? Then that changes. That norm changes, and we don't give kids a smartphone when they graduate from elementary into middle school. So that's where stuff like it's just, we have got to talk. There are good things that are happening and that I'm optimistic about, with this issue. The new Toy Story movie, right, is about toys and devices. And so
Mhm.
a mega movie like Toy Story being in the cultural conversation is such a huge thing. So maybe you don't agree with everything that they said in the movie, and that's okay, as long as it sparks a conversation and you start talking to each other about this stuff, about how it's affecting you. Because so many times a parent will come up to me after a workshop and say, oh, I thank you. I felt like I was the only one feeling this way.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
like, I've never spoken to a parent who was like, we're good, everything's fine. Like, I'm not concerned. We all are. So like talking about it is really important. And then, so going back to the education piece of it, we really need media literacy in our schools. We just have to have it. I know some schools and some districts do it. I don't think
Mhm.
enough do. And I think that's because there's not necessarily a good framework for it. I do know that, like, to plug Common Sense, they do have materials that can help schools incorporate media literacy into their curriculum. And it's not even necessarily something that has to be a separate subject. In fact, I don't think it should. I think it should be part of whatever the curriculum that's being taught. You just use lessons that are media literacy focused within history class, within English class, within social studies. All of these classes can benefit from being able to dissect media and start thinking about it critically. And the more the kids do that, the more that they can translate those skills into every facet of their life, using media literacy for video games, using media literacy for social media, using media literacy for film and television. But I think especially social media, because it really starts to help you with the mis and disinformation that is being spread online, because that is also a huge problem, because we have people in this country that live in different realities. They're being fed a they're in a filter bubble. They're being fed information from one side. They're not getting an alternative perspective. And a lot of times what they're being fed isn't even true. It's just heightened scare tactics, right? Fear is a big motivator for people. And so being able to spot what that looks like is just like that. We've got to start doing that in our communities, in our schools, which again is where Kiwanis is such an awesome opportunity for that, because you are in the communities, right? You are working with kids in, K Club and all of this stuff, where so like you can provide spaces not only for them to be somewhere where they're offline, but also to give them workshops, to give them education and get them start thinking about this stuff.
I want to just share that we're scrolling the website again on the bottom of the screen, health-e-habits.org. And when you go to the website, there's a great tab up there called Programs. And the programs are kind of bundled into three major categories: for parents, for students, and also for the school's administration to facilitate a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to encourage you 20 minutes from now, when the show is over, don't do it now because that would be rude. Click on the website, go to that tab, check out the programs. Because, as I'm sitting here, Val, listening to Jim, and you hear his passion in his voice, there's no question that Jim is a leader in facilitating this. But when you think about the programs that we have brought over the years, Jim's program with Healthy, why am I having trouble saying that? Health E-Habits, Iguana, Book Vending Machine, that's just three that comes to mind off the top of my head of literacy programs that ultimately, especially the latter two, decreases and fits right into the program of what Jim is trying to do to make less screen time, so to speak, and more literacy. And so once again, Kiwanis in its multiple arms of Doc Ock coming together and on this show continue to provide resources for not only our Kiwanis clubs to facilitate, but our communities. And even if a club or an individual Kiwanian doesn't want to necessarily involve a program, take this information. Y'all put out newsletters. Y'all got a Facebook page. Put these darn links on there and get the word out there that these programs exist for your schools. It doesn't have to rely on you necessarily doing a program, but because it's time for a commercial, I'm going to get off my soapbox right now so we can go to commercial and pick this up on the other side. You're watching Kiwanis Connects, and by then, I hope I'll lose this southern drawl, y'all. See you.
Kiwanis International is a global community of clubs, members, and partners dedicated to improving the lives of children, one community at a time. Today, we stand with more than 550,000 members, from K-Kids to Key Club to Kiwanis, for all ages in over 80 countries around the world. Each community has different needs, and Kiwanis empowers members to pursue creative ways to serve the needs of children, such as fighting hunger, improving literacy, and offering guidance. Kiwanis clubs host nearly 150,000 service projects each year.
For more information, contact Herman Platsky at KiwanisClub of 29Palms.com.
At Kiwanis Family House, we build communities and give hope. But when someone is sick, families can be tested in ways they never imagined. Parents have to travel far from home to get their child the complex medical care needed. They may have to miss work and worry about paying the bills, and all the while, trying to keep their family together. That's where Kiwanis Family House comes in. Kiwanis Family House provides a home away from home for families with sick family members receiving treatment at nearby hospitals. Families stay at Kiwanis Family House for as long as they need. This allows them to be close to their sick family member and each other during a stressful time. Every day, Kiwanis Family House witnesses how families are a powerful source of support and healing during difficult times due to illness or trauma. Every day, Kiwanis Family House celebrates the importance of family and the power of love and support.
Imagine being able to golf no matter the weather or time of day. Well, now you can at Back 9 Great Bridge in Chesapeake. Grab your clubs and swing by for the next level of golf. Back 9 is open 24/7, play on your own schedule, get pro-level swing data, and much more. Try St. Andrews, then Pebble Beach to test your skills. It's also a great way to start playing golf without the distractions, pressure, or cost of playing 18 holes outside. Back 9 offers individual and corporate memberships to fit your needs. Back 9 is now open at 500 South Battlefield Boulevard in Chesapeake. Visit our website for more information. Level up your game without stepping on the course with Back 9.
All right, welcome back to Kiwanis Connects. Boy, am I glad I took that quick sip when we came back after I put the bottle down. Welcome back to Kiwanis Connects. Doc, Val, Jim, and all of you out there, thank you for those great comments. A lot of eyeballs on today's show. Val, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to our Kiwanis Family House really quickly. And that's because they've been a standalone program for a really long time, serving so many people, but there's been a backlog and a wait list. And they just announced earlier this year that they are starting their second Kiwanis Family House, and it's going to be in Reading. And all the facilities are there, all the pieces are there. And Reading has this amazing children's hospital that will be partnered with them. And so congratulations to Kiwanis Family House. A long time coming. And I hope that we have another one in Southern California really soon.
Well, I don't know if that commercial showed it, but I got 2 bricks laying there at the current one. I guess I got to start thinking about getting some new bricks, huh?
Yeah, I got to catch up with you. I only have my one. So.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm ahead of Val on something. Kiwanis related? Holy shnikes. Hey, by the way, tomorrow is the float-a-thon for Jonathan Cares. And tomorrow I will be presenting our $600 check on behalf of the Kiwanis Connects jersey fundraiser we did a couple of weeks ago over the Icon. So we're excited about that. And in addition to that, thank you to those who donated. I did a birthday Facebook fundraiser that I raised $255. Thank you to Judy Goad for getting me over the finish line. So everything that we're doing, we've got almost $1,000 going to Jonathan Cares, and I know they need that to continue doing their food provision service and keeping their 26-foot box truck on the road. All right, Val, I'll throw it back to you for a few more minutes with Jim before we move on to some of our other stuff. So go for it.
You know, Kiwanis is about feeding the world, mind, body, and soul. And so when we talk about the Jonathan Cares, that's the body thing. But Jim, this is so important on the mind level. And I keep thinking back to, I have 2 grandboys, and one is getting ready to turn 5 in August. And he is very attached to that little tablet. And how do we progress with that so that when he actually goes to kindergarten this fall, there's a different level of interaction? How can we do it in a subtle way that we don't get temper tantrums, basically? Yeah,
I think you have to not worry about the temper tantrums, right? Like, I think we just have to do the thing. And like, I also try to remind people when I do my workshops, don't feel bad about the things that I'm going to say, because you might be doing them and you're like, oh no, that's something that I've been doing with my child. No, like, relieve yourself of any guilt. We don't have the information that we should have. And when you take in new information, that means that you can change your behavior. So even with the older kids, right, where it's just like, maybe you did give your middle schooler a smartphone and you're like, oh no, I would like to take it back. You can, right? We're allowed to do that when we get new information. So I would say, especially for somebody that's 5 years old, like, they don't need a tablet. And yes, there are going to be temper tantrums because it's not their bad behavior, it's their physiology, right? They're having a stress response. That's another thing I tell people about video games, because a lot of times everyone's like, oh, well, when my kid gets off video games, they throw a tantrum and they like are. No, they're not. They're having a stress response. It's a cortisol stress response when you feel that you're in threat and the body doesn't understand context, right? So it's not their fault that that's happening. However, it will happen less and less as they move on and they're able to adapt back to not having the thing that caused the stress response in the first place. I would also suggest that when they do start going to school, have conversations with the administration, with their teachers, to make sure that the screen time they're getting is either purposeful or incredibly limited. Because children in elementary school don't need screens. There is a lot of the programming out there that is not great. I'm not saying remove all tech from the classroom. I'm saying be purposeful with the tech that you're using in a classroom. And unfortunately, not a lot of districts have a policy overall, and they do leave it up to teachers. So that's where it's important to sit down with your teacher, for your kid's teacher, and say, how often do you use screens? What are you using screens for? There are a lot of these programs where if kids finish an assignment, if they get through a paragraph that they're supposed to read and answer question on, the second that they do it, they can play a game, right? So what do? They don't read the thing, they don't do the assignment, and they just do it as fast as they can to get to the game. Again, what do we expect from them, right? So I think it's important to have conversations, not just with the community, not with just, your kids, friends, parents, with your schools too. And maybe they can pull it back. Here in Los Angeles, the second largest school district in the country, they passed a resolution about making tech more purposeful. And I think that's a good thing. And there are organizations out there that help you do that give you resources to start these conversations in your schools. For example, there's one organization started here in LA and has gone national very quickly because, again, these are concerns that all of us have as parents. But it's called Schools Beyond Screens. So it's schoolsbeyondscreens.com. And you can sign up to start a chapter in, whatever school district you're in, and they have resources that they can provide you. They can have, they have templates for conversations that you can have with administrators, with teachers, with other parents. And that's kind of, as much as we want to get tech ed in, we do get some of that ed tech out.
Schoolsbeyondscreens.com. And so as we're looking at that, is that something that a Kiwanis Club could sponsor as a part of it, or is it something that has to be an independent?
It's more of a chapter-based thing. So if Kiwanis wants to help support it, by all means, that would be great, because then they can spread the word to parents. Because what it is, it's a parent movement to make sure that people are in conversations with their administration to make sure that the tech that's being used in the classroom is helpful and not harmful.
I want to say, you just with what your last sentence there, Jim, was sort of adds to the irony of the point that I want to mention. We're talking about how screen time and everything, we want to try to reduce all of that. However, the days of students carrying books this big in backpacks back and forth like when I used to are gone. Why? Because every school is equipped with iPads and desktops that they do all their work on. Now, granted, they're using it for educational purposes within the classroom, but are they really being given the opportunity to separate from screen time in general when all their math practice skills are games? So there's a lot of irony to all of this because of what's being used in the school.
You want to know what's even more ironic, Aaron, is when you talk about how schools don't have books anymore. You know what schools do have books? The ones that the tech executives send their kids to. That's where the books are.
We have just in the chat room, Mr. Rick Upchurch from Las Vegas, former Denver Bronco great, is in there watching. Greg Heath, Patrick Goad, Judy Goad, everybody's out there. Let's see. Patrick says, I polled a small group of Key Club members about their motivation for joining. It was not a scientific poll, but out of the 9 kids questioned, they all agreed that they are in Key Club for their college resume. Some were actively texting while they were talking. How can tech be leveraged to help motivate or find balance with their motivations and the mission of Kiwanis? That's a great question. We're still trying to harness that and figure that out right now, but we're doing it right here on this show. I can tell you that much. That's
but that's what goes back to, again, Aaron, what you were talking about, where the tech is neutral and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how it's being used. So they do communicate differently than we do. They do like plan things over Instagram or Snapchat, right? So it's like, we're not taking that away from them. And I don't think that we should just explain to them and show them where the harm is so that they can make better decisions about this stuff. So they can use that to reach other kids, right? And invite them into spaces like K Club and, other organizations that are there to, help them and get them ready for college and all of this stuff. So it's like, maybe those are instances where we do have to put in the boundaries and the guidelines. You know what? No more phones in the club, right? Like when we come into the classroom or when we come into whatever the space it is, we have a thing, everybody drops their phones into it. That's something that I recommend for parents when we're at dinner time, right? Like that's it's a space for connection. And that's also a place where you have to model good behavior too, right? So if you are on your phone all the time, it's pretty hypocritical to tell a kid to get off of theirs. So being aware of how you're modeling to them and then making guidelines and rules. Like even in schools, why can't we have a smartphone ban that takes place bell to bell throughout the entire day? We ban certain things from coming into schools, weapons, alcohol, drugs. Why can't we also ban smartphones? I'm not saying kids aren't going to try and get around it, and of course they will, but have the procedures in place that there are repercussions when you do. And it gets taken away. And this is step one. And if you keep doing it, it escalates to this point. But have those rules in place and then enforce them. So there is a time where, you know, coming into the club, they can just put their phones away and say, like, look, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it, right? Because you have to give them the respect of explaining to them that this isn't their fault and that you're doing this not because you hate smartphones or you hate technology, but you are there to protect them, and you're protecting their brains and their thinking and their, you know, their attention, their focus. And so one of those things is to promote sociability within the group. And you can't do that when everybody's staring at a phone.
I'll give you a forward answer to that question regarding phones in the classroom, because I've been on the side of the argument as an educator why parents don't go for that. It's called very simply, in case of emergency.
I love it because I have a 5-point response to that about why a smartphone in an emergency is a terrible idea.
So we'll get to that reply at another time because we are running up against it. But you are 100% correct. These are arguments and discussions that go back and forth in the use of those phones during school time, etc. Val, I want to digress into wrapping up with some of our other segments. Then we'll come back for Close with Jim. Is that all right?
Absolutely. This has been such a fun day. So
oh, absolutely. We'll have to have Jim back for part 2 because I want to hear those 5 points of contention on the iPhone. Anyway, all right. It is time for Melissa Atwell's mental health moment. Here it is.
Hi, I'm Melissa Atwell, founder and CEO of the Mental Health Moment. Today, I want to really point out that mental health is just health. It's not separate. Physical health, mental health. You don't ignore a broken bone, right? So don't ignore your mind when it's in pain. Prioritize your peace. Prioritize your mental health. Remember, take a moment for your mental health.
Thank you, Madam President of the Mental Health Moment, Las Vegas Kiwanis Club, Miss Melissa Atwell. I'm having trouble with my teeth today, and I got to really adjust it in there. Anyway, Val, do we have a wow moment or 2 or 3 or 4?
Oh, we definitely do.
All right.
It's like, wow.
John.
So one of the things that I've been doing a lot of is watching the NBC morning news and all that kind of fun stuff. And my favorite part are the upbeat stories. And so one of the things that if you've been trying to figure out how to do something really upbeat and interesting, there's this organization that's called JASA Cakes, JASA Cakes. And they honor seniors in New York. And they give them a full birthday, including a birthday cake with all the lighted candles and the songs and everything. And so they only asked for an $18 donation to sponsor a senior's birthday. And I'm not talking a senior in high school. I am talking the folks that are homebound, the folks that don't have the family that can remember their birthdays. And so the JASA Cakes to me has just made me smile. And it's an extension of some of the other programs where at our food distribution centers, we're starting to put together birthday bags. And so that's something a Kiwanis Club can easily do, is getting all the pieces so that a parent can actually make a cake for their child. Because for a number of children that are out there, their very first birthday celebration may not be until they are an adult, being sponsored by someone else, because a birthday bag can be expensive. And that's the last thing on your list when you're shopping for your essentials. So that's my wows for today.
No, I absolutely love it. And, you know, it's funny. I pulled up the website and I just sent the link to John. We can maybe scroll it for a second or two. When you mentioned that the first level donation is $18, it sort of struck me because in the Jewish religion, the number 18 is a lucky number. It translates to the Hebrew word chai, made up of 2 Hebrew letters, the He and the Yud, and it has an equivalent value of 18. So I'm like, wow, that's a pretty interesting, you know, first level. So I quickly went to the website, and sure enough, JASA is part of the UJA, the United Jewish Association Federation of New York. So I'm like, wow, oh, that's pretty cool. Now, of course, in typical Jewish fashion, I could say this because I'm part of the tribe, it went from $18 to $90 for 5 birthdays. So it jumped
Very,
pretty
very
high.
quickly. It jumped
Absolutely.
fast.
But 10, you get $180. So at least the math works there. All right. We're down to a couple of minutes. So therefore, you know what it means. Before we say goodbye and wrap up, it is time for bad dad jokes. But first, our guest has done his homework. So, of course, he's going to set the bar very high for me, which, of course, I have no intention of really ever reaching. So, Jim, hit us with your bad dad jokes, sir. Get us started.
Well, first of all, the name of my company is a bad dad joke, right? Healthy Habits, Health-E Habits.
Obviously, I can't say it for crying out loud. So, yes, we got to fix that.
And then, so my bad dad joke is there's a dad, we'll say he's a dad, sitting at the table reading the newspaper or looking at his phone. Let's update the joke. And there's a knock on the door, and he gets up and he opens it and he looks around and he's like, there's nobody here. And then he looks down and there's just a little snail. He just picks it up and just tosses it into the yard. 10 years go by. The dad's looking at his phone at the table. There's a knock at the door. He goes and he opens it up. There's nobody there anymore. And he looks down and the snail's there and it goes, what was that about?
All right, Aaron. I think you've got your
All right, John.
for you.
Let's see what I can do with that one. Go for it. See, I couldn't come up with an acceptable theme of jokes, but now hearing that one, I could have done snails all day long and I would have gotten a laugh. So instead, I'm going to the book. I'm going to the book of a dad joke today. Here you go. Here's number one. Since it is summertime, this is a great question. Where do pencils go on vacation? Where do pencils go on vacation? If Kathy Zemansky doesn't get it right, she's fired. Well, of course, pencils go to Pennsylvania. Come on now. All right. Why aren't dogs good dancers? Why aren't dogs good dancers?
They have 2 left feet.
Yes, ma'am. There you go. You got it. Good one for dog. You got that one. And what sports are waiters very good at? What sport are waiters very good at? Of course, tennis, because they're really good at serving. Come on now, waiters serving. Come on. You know that was funny. This one is specific for Jim. So only Jim can give me an answer on this one. Okay. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Why are cats so good at video games?
Because they get 9 lives?
Yes. There you go. You know what? Because Jim got that one, I'm done with bad dad jokes for today. There you have it. That's it. Jim got it. He's done. He just finished me out. All right, everybody. Good stuff today. All right. Doc Val, I'm going to turn it to you and for Jim to let's wrap up this episode for today. Yes, Steve Nagel, you do keep coming back. So who's the sick one? That's all I'm going to say to you. Anyway, go ahead. Go for it.
Well, I'm just really glad that Steve was able to get home safely from Malaysia and Manila. So more power to him.
They wanted to trade me for him for 3 fortune cookies. I said, no, you can keep them. But you got that anyway. Go ahead.
Wait. So one of the things that I think is always so important is knowing that we all have an opportunity to, I call it adults. And this is one of those topics where it really just says, we've got to pull up our big boy pants and our big girl panties and just be adults. And adulting is hard sometimes, but to be able to say no, to set boundaries and restrictions is so important. And we also have to be that role model. So, Jim, thanks for reminding us of that. And as we move forward, it's as easy as that. Just being the adults that our kids need and being the adults we needed when we were kids.
Absolutely. Jim, I'm going to give you the floor for 60 seconds to give a wrap-up final thought on your thoughts on everything we chatted about today.
I will say that I'm optimistic about all of this. Even though it seems pretty bleak, we do have the power to change this. And if you look back in history, it took a long time for, let's say, cigarettes to really kind of figure out that this was a bad thing for people, or even car safety took a really long time to get implemented. This stuff, the ship is turning way faster because I think we're seeing the results of an unfettered access to this type of technology and what it does to us and what it does to our children. So the conversations that we're having, the speed with which it's happening, all gives me hope that there is, like Val said, if we just buckle down and we start saying like, no, these are the rules, this is what we have to do, we've got to slow the pace of this down, we absolutely can get it back and turn it around.
Absolutely. Once again, it's just containing control. When the toothpaste is already out of the tube, how can we get it back in and get things somewhat organized? All right, Jim, thank you for coming on today. It's been a blast to have you here, to have your perspective on all of this from a unique, open eye. And of course, our Batman talk before you even went on the air, and that beautiful model your son built you. I'm jealous because I've got mine in the thousands of pieces still in the box, not wanting to open it. All right. Quick programming note. Tomorrow, Saturday, my show, Aaron's Hour. Arrington Gavin, local radio host and businessman. Rugged Beard, Rugged Evolution is his business. We talk about anything and everything. We just had a load of fun. I had it pre-recorded because tomorrow is the day that I will be presenting the check for Jonathan Cares at the Floatathon. So it is pre-recorded, but still fun. And then 30 minutes after that at 12:30 p.m. local time, the Voice of 757 TV show on Cox Cable Channel 4. My guest tomorrow, Antoine Britt. He has organized a fundraising event in November called the Battle of the Badges, where so far 13 3-minute rounds, 3 minutes each, to raise funds for his nonprofit, which builds homes for disabled and homeless veterans. So I will be involved in that, either in the ring, not fighting, ring announcing, or commentary. And Antoine will be my guest tomorrow. If you miss it, don't worry. Monday or Tuesday of next week, go to the Facebook page of the same name. All right. With that, everybody, thank you for watching. Please, wherever there's crazy weather, hot, heat, humidity, please be careful. Storms are around. Stay hydrated. Be kind to everybody. Why? We're all we have. We'll see you next time right here on Kiwanis Connects. This show is adjourned.